What can you do about kettlebell squat butt wink? You know, that wink when your hip rotates inward on your squat and it curls under when your pelvis posteriorly tilts inward. Have you experienced that? I know I have when I first started doing squats, kettlebell squats, front squats, any kind of squat. That winking when your pelvis tilts inward, up under, is not safe. It's actually vulnerable to your lower back and your pelvis when it does that. How do you prevent that? Well, today, I'm gonna show you how to do it with my 4 simple steps. All right, so let's jump into it. First step is gonna be the setup, your squat setup. If you have your feet too narrow, your pelvis, your hips don't have anywhere to go, especially if you have tight hip flexors. So you wanna make sure your feet are at least shoulder width apart and not pointed straight forward. They're slightly turned outward. All right, so when you're squatting, you open up the hip and it allows you to have your hip mobility to come outward so you can squat into it the way you're supposed to. Versus with your feet, you're slightly pointed straight ahead, your hips you're basically tied or locked in so they can't open up freely. All right, that's the first step, is setting up properly with the squat. So make sure you're about at least shoulder width apart, okay? And your feet are slightly about 15 degrees pointed outward so your hips can open up. All right, that's important, the setup. Because if you don't have the setup right, these last 3 don't really matter. All right? So the next one's gonna be keeping your chest up. All right? If you're trying to squat and you're coming down here and then you're round and you're trying to squat and your lower back's rounding in, that indicates that you have either had tight hip flexor or tight ankles, which that's going to be step 4, and I'll cover that in a minute, how to fix that. So it's important to keep your chest upright as you're squatting into it, so that it'll give you that feedback. This is important. Listen to this. This is important right here. This is really, very important. It's going to give you that feedback as to how far you can actually squat without having that wink in or having your posterior tilt, your posterior pelvis come inward and butt wink. All right, that's step 3. Do not squat so low. That's a huge tip. And the only way you're going to know how far you can squat is by keeping your chest up. All right, so as you squat down with your chest upward, I recommend watching yourself in the mirror. And as you're coming down to the squat, you can see yourself, see your posterior, your lower back, posterior pelvis here, and right before it starts to wink in, that's where you stop. All right, and again, the only way you're gonna know that is if you keep your chest upright. Okay, if you don't do that and you let your chest round, you're gonna be able to squat lower with a rounded back. That's bad squat form, by the way, anyway, and your lower back's gonna not be able to give you that feedback as to that's as far as you can squat. So keep your chest up and only squat as low as you can go right before your lower back starts to curl up inward or do the butt wink. All right, and so that leads to step 4, and this is important here, and then I'll show you some fixes with this. Generally, if you have that butt wink, you either have a tight hip flexors or tight ankle mobility, meaning your ankle can't flex as far as it needs to, and when you're squatting, so your heels come up, and if you drive your heels down and you still want to squat lower, that's why it's important to only squat as you can, then your body has to compensate some way. So usually what happens is the lower back rolls in. So you're squatting down and you don't have the mobility, your heels want to come up, but you force them down and you squat lower and it winks in, it comes inward, okay? So it's important to know and to work on your limited mobility in your ankles or your hips. And that's what we're going to cover now. And then once you fix these and you increase that mobility and range in your hips and your ankles, ankle joints, that's going to improve your squat technique. And if you apply the first 2, setting up properly, keeping that chest up, and only squatting as low as you can go as you increase that mobility, that's going to prevent that hip wink. All right, a great cue for yourself is when you're squatting and you feel like you're starting to get tight, your hips are starting to tighten up, your hip flexors, and it's like you want to squat lower, but this is all you got. The cue is, stop right there. If you force it down from here to, all the way down here, when you don't have the ankle mobility yet or the hip flexibility, you're gonna get that butt wink. So that's feedback. And watch yourself in a mirror. Put yourself in a mirror or make a video and find out where that point is right before you start to curl it in, okay? Before you start to do that butt wink and curl your posterior pelvis inward, which is what we're trying to prevent, right? So get that feedback from a mirror, only squat as low as you can go, and then come up and then work on these 2 ankle mobility tips and hip flexibility tips. So you can increase that mobility and range of motion, and that's gonna make all the difference, all right? So with your ankle, so great way to test your ankle mobility is to have, and I'll show you how this looks, I'll put it all together with an actual squat here. So you wanna come forward as far as you can go before your heel comes off the ground, okay? This might be right here and that's all you got. That's poor ankle mobility. That might be your issue. You need to work on your ankle mobility and flexibility, okay? If you can only come to here and your ankle comes up already, you gotta work on that ankle mobility. How do you do that, all right? Well, you just do that, just like that. So you're gonna drive, go as far as you can, and then you're just gonna really kind of dig into that ankle. You gotta stretch that ankle, okay? It could be tight calves, tight soleus. You might have some tightness back here. Stretch your ankles, okay? Get a good ankle stretch. Okay, I'll leave a link on a great ankle stretcher that I use every day to get those calf stretcher. Stretches the ankles, but it's a calf stretcher. So you have tight calves, your gastrocnemius or your soleus muscle, that's gonna cause your ankle to come up. It's not gonna increase that flexibility, because if you can't flex your calves, and it's gonna force you, and you're trying to force it to, it's gonna cause your ankle to roll upward. So flex your, stretch your calves, stretch your, and do that regularly. I'll put that link in the description. You can pick that up from Amazon. It's a great tool. And also work on strengthening your tibialis muscle, this front muscle here, by doing just some hip lifts, some simple, just rotating your toes upward onto your heels. So that's gonna increase this strength, your tibialis strength. Okay, the muscles right here in the front of your tibia. And that's also going to stretch your calves and increase that ankle calf stretch as well, calf mobility and flexibility, and of course, as you add that to your add the stretcher as part of your routine as well. Okay, so that's the and then you just add in, you just do some more, you test it out. You want to increase that range of motion so you can go all the way with your ankle and your heel still on the ground. Okay, this took a while for me to get here. Okay, I didn't start here. I was experiencing that bum week as well. So this is gonna help. This is what I did to help prevent that, or to help fix that, is increasing my ankle flexibility. So do that, okay? Next up, once you have your ankle flexibility down, you can do them together, but the next issue may be your hips. Okay, maybe it's not your knee. Usually it's not your knee, unless you have some knee problems or knee issues that may be the issue, but generally it's your either ankle or your hip. So if you have tight hips, tight hip flexors, you want to loosen those up. How do you know if you have tight hip flexors? Well, if you're trying to squat, great indicator, and you can only go to here, and it's tight right here, and the only thing you can do is either bow the knees in or bring your heels up, you have tight hip flexors. You got to work on that. Okay, here's a couple of my tips and how I loosen up my hip flexors every time I'm going to do a squat. Okay, we're going to start out first with my #1 top mobility warm-up for the hips and the hip flexors when I'm going to do any squat. Okay, so what is that? So you're gonna have your legs straight out here, your toe on the ground. You're gonna pulse. You're gonna open up this hip flexor. You're gonna pulse into it, okay? You may only be able to go here and it's tight. You can't go past that. That's why you need to work on that. You should be able to come all the way back, just like that. Again, I didn't start here, I worked up to this. So work on that. And only compare yourself to yourself and your improvements, okay? And eventually you'll be able to put your foot down flat on the ground and pulse. And this hip flexor, your hip will loosen up, okay? That's that exercise here. And of course, you want to switch sides. You want to keep it even. Do it on this side. So straight leg out, this toe point on the ground, okay? And pulsing, opening it up. Do 5, 10, 15 of these. In fact, this is one of my mobility warm-up routines that I recommend you do every time you're gonna kettlebell train, squats, kettlebell squats, or whatever it is. I'll leave that description, that link in the description. My favorite mobility routine I do before every single workout. This is included, all right? And then eventually, like I said, you'll be able to increase that range of motion, and you'll be able to stretch out the hip flexor will, you'll be able to come further back into it, okay? That's the first one. This is all part of one sequence. So after you do those two sides, you come into a half squat position. All right, yes, I have the mobility and range of motion that you may not have, which is fine because again, I didn't start there. I worked up to this, and this is how I did it. So once you do those two exercises, you're gonna have a half squat. You may be able to come to here before your heel comes up because of those tight ankles, all right? That's okay. Go as far as you can back while your heel's on the ground. You take your elbow, you put it onto your knee, inside of your knee. You're gonna do hip circles. 5, 10, 15 of these. You're gonna feel that right here in that hip flexor area, you're opening up that hip flexor. That's the point of this exercise. This is great. This is excellent for doing when you're gonna do squats. It'll open up the hip flexor because again, if it's tight, it's going to cause you to compensate in your squat, and generally it's either going to go to your bowed knees or it's going to cause that butt wink. So then you go circles outward, 5, 10, 15 reps. All right, and then you kind of, what I like to do is finish with a nice leaning into it, half squat position, driving it out. And this is a combo move. This is one of my favorite here. One of my favorites here. Once you get here, it's an ankle flex it, stretch, flex, stretch that ankle, but also it's a hip flexor stretch. So you're going into that squat. What is this? What does this look like? It's a half squat. That's where you want to be, right? This is going to help you get there without causing that butt wink and putting your lower back at risk and your your pelvis from rotating inward, posteriorly tilting inward, all right? So once you do one side, you feel good with that. Again, take your time with these. You don't have to rush. Again, foot flat on the ground, your foot's upward. You're going to lean into it. Actually, we need to do circles first. So again, you get those elbows, your elbow, one elbow, and you rotate out, rotate, get those circles, open up the hip flexor. If you're only up here and that's all you have, it's all right. That's an indicator you have tight hip flexors. You need to work on that. So do these regularly, daily. Again, I have I'm making a video on mobility. You can start your day with that, and definitely before every workout. This is included to get your hips going and warmed up and moving and mobile, all right? So circles out. Again, 5, 10, 15 reps, 20 reps, just move it, enjoy this. You're gonna feel that, your hip flexor opening up, loosening up, all right? And then you go around for, again, 5, 10, 15, 20 reps, as many as you need to. And when you're done with that, you sit into it, foot flat on the ground, heel all the way down, and just go into a half squat position, okay? Eventually, you'll be able to do this with mobile ankles and opened up hip flexors, so you can do the squat freely and loose. But you have to work on these mobility, these two drills before you do any squat. That's going to open up your hips and your ankles. All right, this is my top go-to warm-up mobility routine before I do any type of squat. And once you do those exercises, I like to finish up with a hip flexion exercise. Just tilt the hip forward, okay? You're just pulsing, okay? You're just opening up the hip. Again, all this hip area is being stretched, it's mobility, it's loosened up. Once you get those movements down, or once you do those exercises, then you're gonna go a squat, and I'm telling you, it's gonna improve your squat. It's gonna make it so your ankles moving better, has more mobility, your hips are opened up, and you're able to squat properly. Oftentimes, the technique, or your poor technique, is because you just have tight hip flexors or tight ankles. So do these two exercises. So once you go back into that squat, try this after you do those exercises. You should be able to freely go into a squat nicely. You should be able to squat a little bit lower. Again, making sure you don't posterior tilt without having that posterior tilt. So you're squatting down and you won't have that tilt, okay? you'll be able to squat lower without having the posterior tilt or that butt wink that we're trying to prevent. All right, so practice these. Start with your setup. Feet shoulder width apart, slightly 15 degrees turned outward, and then you have your chest up. Keep that chest up, back nice and straight, chest up, maintain that. And the next one's gonna be only go as low, squat as low as you can before your lower back tilts in one or you have that butt wink, all right? Only go as low as you can go. Okay, use a mirror for some feedback or record yourself, okay? Or if you have a question, you wanna send me a video, just comments, you can leave that below. All right, and then of course, work on those three ankle mobility and hip flexor stretches. So again, working on stretching that ankle and of course, stretching the calves. Get your calves stretched out. Make sure they're not tight, because if you have tight calves, it's gonna come to your ankle. And of course, the other exercises, the ankle rolls, the pulsing, work on those, make those part of your everyday, or at least before your workout, mobility warm up. And again, I have that mobility full video. You can check that out here in the comments, or sorry, the description. And of course, the ankle stretcher that I like to use every day to keep my ankles nice, not my ankles, keep my ankles flexed, but also it's a calf stretcher. So it helps with ankle mobility. So I'll leave that in the description as well. You can pick that up. All right, well, thanks for showing this video. Oh, I'm gonna show you how to do this looks. Can't forget that part with an actual goblet squat. So once you squat down, all right, as you can see, my hip stays upward. Squat, I don't have that ankle, that tilt, and I drive up. Okay, I can come to parallel or lower without that posterior tilt. My back straight. Again, my feet are lined up. I'm coming down. And that's how every squat should look and feel. It should feel strong. And you know when that lower back starts to tilt and you don't have the strength and the stability as you do when it's nice and straight. So you gotta just practice this and drive it up. Okay, again, only go as low as you can go before your posterior pelvis tilts in, okay? So those are my 4 tips on how to fix your butt wink on your kettlebell squats or any squat. What to do, my 4 steps, the setup, the chest up, only squat as low as you can, and work on that ankle and hip flexibility and mobility. All right, thanks for watching this video. Let me any tips or any or questions you have below. Let me know your favorite of these 4. What is your favorite tip here and how did it help you? And let me know how when you start to apply this and do this, let me know below in the comments the results and feedback you got from yourself, and I'll help coach you along the way with that. All right, so thanks for watching this video. I'll see you on the next video here. Oh, real quick though, once you get this squat down, you start to do squats more effectively with the kettlebell, and you got that hip wink, butt wink, you got that out of the way, and you got a good squat going, and you're ready to do a workout with the kettlebell squat and some other kettlebell exercises. I have a full 10 minutes, just 10 minutes kettlebell workout you can do anytime. One kettlebell, 10 minutes, you can get it in, get it done. So you can always have a workout you can do no matter where you are with one kettlebell. So grab that, KB10 in the comments. I'll shoot that over to you, or grab that in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video again. Showing up, practice these exercises, rewatch this video, apply, show this when we know who has that butt wink and they're trying to get rid of it. Maybe it's your training partner, maybe, send it over to them so they can start to fix that and increase their range of motion so they can start doing safe, effective, and strong squats the right way without that butt wink. We want to get rid of that. All right, so until then, I'll see you in the next video. Train strong, get after it, expect success. You got this. See you on the next video. Have an awesome day.